On a beautiful Friday morning in mid-March, the big guy drove me about an hour and a half south of Myrtle Beach to the Seawee Environmental Center. There I met Gates, one of the guides for the weekend, and the other 12 people who would be spending the next 2 days on Bulls Island. Bulls Island is part of the Cape Romaine National Wildlife Refuge, and despite what that name suggests to me, it's open to the public, although there are no real services on the island. Access is through a passenger ferry service, which takes you out through a salt marsh and estuary to this 7-mile-long island about 45 minutes north of Charleston. It's been protected habitat since the 1930s. Coastal Expeditions is licensed to run 4-day trips every week, and the big guy and I were on one of those back in the fall of 2011. Now I was back for a weekend excursion, one of just 8 that they offer each year, and would be staying on the island with 2 naturalists as guides. Our ferry ride out to the island took about 45 minutes, maybe an hour. We saw oyster beds exposed at low tide, American oyster catchers feeding on them, willets, mergansers, white egrets, cormorants, laughing gulls, a common loon, which excited everyone but me since they're pretty common in Canadian Shield lakes, a juvenile bald eagle, and a few dolphins. Bulls Island runs more or less southwest-northeast, but the maps of the island itself show it sideways, with the Atlantic Ocean pretty clearly to the east on the top. It has 4 distinct habitats: marsh, upland forest, beach and tidal flats, and ponds. We landed at the dock, marked as a 1 on this map, and got on a trailer with benches to haul our weekend kit to the house, marked as number 2. The accommodation reflects the origins of the house as a single-family dwelling. I was there on my own and ended up rooming with 3 other women, one also there by herself, and 2 friends who were traveling together. We had an ensuite bathroom. Couples had private bedrooms and shared a bathroom down the hall with another couple. Scattering our stuff around and having lunch, we went out for a forest walk, seeing white ibis, kingfishers, tricolor herons, great and little blue herons, cedar waxwings, white egrets. A spider web dusted with pine pollen. Then we came out to some ponds. And saw some alligators in the water. Also on the levee we were crossing. Our guide assured us that they weren't dangerous to us, and indeed, as we got close, they either splooshed back into the water or just ignored us. We rendezvoused with our transportation and were hauled over to the beach, more or less the most eastern point before it starts veering north, seeing more ospreys, bald eagles, red-winged blackbirds, and ducks unlimited along the way, along with one slightly edgy cottonmouth snake. The real photographers got out of the trailer at this point to get a better shot. I stayed put. As we got to the beach, the tide was high but going out, so some of us did some beachcombing. The professional photographers made their plans for the sunrise shoot, which would be at the same location the next day, and the guides started steaming fresh oysters. Now, I'd eaten raw oysters once and did not like them, but I was persuaded to try one of these, and they were great, much better than mussels, which I quite like. Throughout the day, we saw Carolina jasmine everywhere. As our guide said, every spring it lights up the forest. The next morning, it was all aboard at 6:15. We had to drive out to the beach, just the edge of the famous Boneyard Beach, where the sea has encroached on a forest and dead trees are left standing on what is now beach, and get set up for pictures before first light. Definitely worth the effort for the sunrise and for the early morning light on the beach area and adjacent salt marshes. After breakfast back at the house, we headed out again for an extended beach walk. It doesn't look like far on the map, but it was pushing 6 miles, given that it wasn't in a straight line. And then there were the 100 or so lifts up and down, checking out shells. After lunch and some free time for birding, photography, and sleeping, we took a 40-minute boat ride out to Marsh Island, one of the ephemeral sandbar islands that come and go along the coast, and that serve as nesting or feeding areas for all manner of seabirds. We saw laughing gulls, marbled godwits, royal and Caspian terns, ruddy turnstones, white and brown pelicans, willets, cormorants, and oyster catchers again. We also saw a peregrine falcon and a northern harrier arguing over a kill. With the boat in constant motion, up, down, sideways, I didn't even try to get any pictures of the birds. Then we got into a small pod of dolphins, which were behaving very socially, repeatedly surfacing near our boat. As we made our way back to the island along an inner channel and through the estuary, the afternoon light was warming everything it touched. But no one felt cheated. It had been a fabulous 2 days. It made a wonderful end to a glorious day. Sunday dawned wet, windy, and cold, hastening our scheduled noonish departure by about an hour.